All right. Today's guest is someone who brings both legal savvy and soulful strategy to the entrepreneurial table. Joey Vitale is an award-winning trademark attorney, a team-building expert, and the founder of two powerhouse businesses, Indie Law and Skybreaker. Whether he's helping founders protect their brand or build a dream team without burnout, Joey's all about giving entrepreneurs the peace of mind they need to scale with confidence. He's also the author of Legally Legit, and I'm so excited to unpack his journey and insights today. Oh my gosh, Joey, I have been so excited about this episode because I know not enough entrepreneurs know about this topic. Heck, even if you're not an entrepreneur and just an author, trademarks could still apply. So I wanted to rewind a little bit first and ask you how you even got into this.
I sometimes don't know the answer to that myself, Chrissy. So because this definitely was not a path that 10 years ago I would have thought I would have gone down. So
Interesting.
To give you and all of your listeners and viewers a sense of my background, I am very much an accidental entrepreneur. First of all, I went to law school because my parents told me to.
Oh, that's funny.
And then when I was there, I very quickly realized, I don't like to argue. What am I doing here?
You don't seem like somebody who likes to argue.
Right? And so I very much felt like the ugly duckling in class. I tried my hardest to be a courtroom attorney for a couple of years. It got to a point where the law firm that I was at was like, Joey, you should strongly consider going by Joe or Joseph in the courtroom, because who's going to take a Joey seriously in the courtroom? So even the name that I go by was called into question. And
I get it. That's funny because my husband is a Joe, but goes by Joey.
Yeah. Okay. So you get it. And so I had a real identity crisis a couple years after I graduated law school. My wife and I were also planning to move. And so I first started interviewing for law firm jobs. And then I was
that you were going to hate.
Exactly. And I was like, wait, what am I doing here? And so I started reading more books about entrepreneurship and business ownership, and started
Are you the first
learning more
entrepreneur
about
in your
being
family?
Well, yes and no. My dad and my grandpa started their own construction company. And so my dad kind of inherited that growing up. It was always more of like a family business than like him being like a sole entrepreneur kind of a thing. But
Okay.
yeah, definitely have that a bit in my genes. But running an online business is totally different than running a construction company. So my dad has no idea to this day what I actually do for a living.
I bet even the Skybreaker part, he's probably like, what the heck are you doing?
Yes. And so I decided to put litigation, courtroom work to the side, got to know a lot of entrepreneurs that needed legal help, and got the confidence to start my own law firm. The first year of running that firm was very enlightening because when we started, Chrissy, I don't think we had met yet, but I was providing all types of legal services for business owners. Contract templates, LLC formations, copyrights, which are different than trademarks, you name it. And after a year of doing all of that stuff, I realized that the one thing that my clients would ping me on a weekend or at midnight about was, hey, I just got a cease and desist letter. Do I really have to change the name of my business or my podcast? And we realized that there was
there with the throwing in the podcast thing. I see what you did there.
Well, that was actually I hate to say it like this, but my favorite horror story to talk about when I'm out doing webinars or presentations is one of my favorite clients got a cease and desist letter while she was vacationing in Hawaii that she had to change her podcast name in less than 30 days. And so instead of enjoying Hawaii while she was there, she was locked in her hotel room, coming up with a new name, letting her team know, letting her audience know they had to make a quick change. I tell my clients that it's like having all 4 tires go flat at once.
I could see
Because
that.
when
Yeah.
you get hit with the cease and desist letter, all of your other business issues and emergencies have to get put to the side, because you can't market or sell or really do anything in business if your business name is called into question.
Yeah, that makes sense. And it's funny that you say that too, because I was literally just talking to somebody last week that that happened to them with their podcast name. And so it was just, and honestly, his name wasn't even that close to the person who was giving the cease and desist, but I know it's all about potential for confusion. So
Right.
he just was like, I don't
Exactly.
even want
Yeah,
to risk it.
Chrissy, you know your stuff around this. So
I
yeah,
do,
after our
because
first,
I've run PR campaigns for trademark issues where we just had to get as many mentions of the use of the phrase as possible. It was an interesting
yeah,
campaign.
after that first year of running the law firm, we then decided to put everything else off the menu and just focus on trademarks.
So smart.
And
So
now we
smart. Well,
filed
clearly it's
over
worked out
like
for you.
13. Yeah, we filed over 1,300 trademark applications. I really love being known among, our clients and peers and business colleagues as like their go-to brand protector.
Yeah.
And I just have so much gratitude and uh, positive things to say about our team that takes such great care of all of our clients.
You seem to have a pretty good team. And, I think a lot of people think, oh, well, I'm not going to worry about trademarking until year 2 or 3 or whatever number they put on it. When do people need to start thinking about trademarking?
Yeah, I hear that question all the time. Or the flip version of, okay, trademarks matter, but I'll get to it later.
Hmm.
Here's the thing that you have to remember. Everyone and their grandma is starting a business right now. And so when we talk about trademarking your name, there's like this hidden assumption that like, oh, I own this, and whenever down the road I feel like it, I can get a trademark on it. Every day that you don't file that application is a day that someone else applies for something that is the
Mm,
same or too similar. And so
yeah.
we can talk about protecting your trademark all day, but we first have to have a serious conversation about availability. And until you file your trademark and get it registered, you're on shaky ground and you might be unknowingly stepping on the toes of another brand.
What's crazy is I know of this one national chain, and this is kind of insane to me. It's a national chain, and they sent a cease and desist letter to this person with the same named company, but their company has been in business way longer than the franchise. So the franchise backed off like, oh, just kidding. So it was interesting that the franchise kind of shut up after getting a letter from the attorney.
That's a
And
great point. And I love that we're already getting into like advanced trademark territory, Chrissy, because something that trademarks are weird because as just human beings and consumers, we have a working knowledge already of like what trademarks are and the fact that brands can get trademarked. A lot of people understandably make the mistake of thinking, I don't have a trademark until I've applied for a federal trademark application and gotten the registration.
yeah,
Technically, the way this works is the first
first,
brand to start using the name technically owns the trademark rights, but the trademark registration is proof of ownership. So
yeah,
whenever we have clients that get their trademarks registered, we always tell them, hey, if you ever see an infringer or a copycat and you're tempted to reach out to them, let us know, let us do extra research, because if they can prove that they used it first, then it's just going to bite you in the butt.
yep. I know, and that's what I told the person. I have a couple. Well, they're expired now, but I had some trademarks in the past. I know I need to get back on that train. I guess, is the process complicated? I think that might be one of the barriers to people doing it is they think, oh my gosh, it's going to be this long drawn process or super expensive or, like, ugh, I don't want to mess with that. It's like, doing your taxes, it's like, not fun.
Yeah. What's again weird about trademarks is that it's deceptively simple. Both the application forms and also like the search database, the trademark office has done a lot to make it consumer friendly. And
Nice.
so there are a lot of people that are like, oh, the form wasn't that hard to fill out. The problem is most applications get denied, and business owners are not used to this. We are used to, if you want a domain name, you fill out the paperwork and you get the domain name immediately. If you want an LLC, in most states, it's instant after you submit it. The trademark application process is way longer than people think. And then it's really complicated to make sure that you do everything correctly. And you don't get your money back if you fill it out wrong and it gets rejected. And a lot of the mistakes, if you make, you can't fix later on. You just have to file all over again.
Oh, interesting. Ooh, that's painful.
So
I guess that's why it's important to
owners,
have somebody guide you, huh?
absolutely. So we do have an online course that walks a business owner through how to, you can go through the course and submit your application in about 3 hours.
Okay, that's not bad.
The big question is, like, what is your hourly rate? And when you do the math, is it better for you to spend those 3 hours yourself doing this, maybe knocking it out on a weekend? Or is it worth the business's time and resources to just have a trademark law firm do it for you?
After I read Dan Martell's Buy Back Your Time book, that's what changed everything. And honestly, that's when I first hired my VA. That was my very first hire, was the VA. And it was the Buy Back Your Time book that made me think, why am I doing all these things that really, one, I don't enjoy and can find somebody who does enjoy those.
Yes.
And two, I really am stealing from my business essentially because I shouldn't be doing these tasks. Which I want to get to your VA agency a little bit later because it's just amazing.
Sure.
But I want to say on the trademark side first, you talked about that moment with the client who was on vacation and she got it, that awful letter. I guess she probably had the same thought that many others do as well. But are there some myths that you hear of that maybe people are delaying because they are believing it?
Yeah, I mean, I will say I hope that no one is doing this with bad intent, but I have heard of a lot of business coaches, sadly, like tell their clients, like, you don't need to trademark X. And so if you are on the receiving end of any recommendations about legal stuff being not required or optional, if that's not coming from an attorney, just be mindful, because non-attorneys should not be giving legal advice and you shouldn't be listening to them if they do.
Very true.
Another thing, and I want to be mindful of like the authors in the audience. It surprises a lot of people to hear that you cannot trademark the title of a book.
Yes, I have had that question so many times, and same with song titles. And they are just like, what?
Yeah. And so what we always tell our author clients is, it's true that you can't trademark the title of a book. And the reasoning for that is trademarks don't apply to the titles of single works. And so what we tell our clients is you can't trademark something that is just the title of a book, but you can trademark something that is more than just the title of your book. So what we are seeing a lot of authors and personal brands do is the title of their book is also the name of their flagship course or the name of their podcast, or their like go-to workshop title for their presentations that they give. And so
Yeah.
if you're able to have that title of the book be elevated elsewhere in your brand, then that is something that you can trademark.
I'm glad you said that too, because that's what we actually call our framework. So this podcast is called Finally Seen, but we call our framework the Finally Seen framework. So that way we can
So
get the
good.
trademark. And I
So
guess
good.
having had trademarks before, I am more familiar with the whole process than many entrepreneurs. But even I know that there's still a lot that I can learn. But that's why I thought it was so important to have you on, because like you mentioned, I know a lot of authors, they either don't think it applies to them at all, or they think the title of their book is good enough for a trademark. And you mentioned earlier the difference between trademark and copyright. That's a question I get a lot too. They don't understand that there are different things. So actually, which makes me think, when it comes to AI, how is that throwing a wrench in the whole trademark thing? Because, like, let's say
Yeah.
AI came up with, I don't know, my course, and I'm naming it or whatever. What if it's an AI derived piece of content or pieces?
Okay, so there a couple of things are coming to mind now. I want to say at the outset that like AI is moving so fast, so there's a chance that what I'm about to say like is outdated by the time people
Right?
hear this. But I will say that there, in terms of content versus like trademarking, you asked about or you talked about copyrights versus trademarks. The
Yeah.
way that I describe that difference with business owners is, um, let's say you walk down like the cereal aisle version of your business industry, and like Chrissy's business and podcasts and frameworks and all of that stuff, she's got her own cereal box with all of her stuff in it. And then someone else that does something similar is next to her on the shelf with their own cereal box of stuff. Trademarks are the packaging, the title of the business, or the name of the business, the title of the podcast, the title of the frameworks. The stuff inside is the copyrights.
I love that. That's excellent. Yeah.
And so when it comes to content that you're writing, um, I've noticed this as well with like Amazon. They make a huge distinction between what is just AI generated content if you're writing a book versus like AI assisted content. So I if you're using AI to maybe create a first draft of something that then you're editing, or it's more of a back and forth, but you really do put a lot of your own thoughts and language to it, then that means that you do own it. Um, Going back to the trademark side of things, there's a few things I think about with AI. Number one is that it tends to get nuanced legal stuff wrong. Like I will even interact with ChatGPT to be like, hey, help me do a first draft of X, or like, what's your understanding of the deadline to file for this? And it more than often is wrong.
Interesting.
What I tend to see people doing more when it comes to trademarks is less like using AI or ChatGPT to like run a trademark search or like try and DIY a trademark
Mm.
application with ChatGPT. What I'm seeing more of is people using ChatGPT for naming help. Like,
Mhm.
I don't know what to name my podcast, or I don't know what to name my business. Um, at this point, it seems like AI is still not great at that type of creative thinking. A lot of times people look at the whatever it's giving you and they're either way off base, um, or, and this is something that is really important to think about, they're giving you kind of like really descriptive or generic names for things.
Mhm.
And one thing that we're seeing, especially in the author or uh, like thought leadership space, is people are coming up with such like generic or commonly used words and phrases And none of that can be trademarked because it's so generic.
Mhm.
And so if you want to build a business that you can really claim ownership of and maybe sell one day, or at least be able to have strong trademark rights, it's worth thinking more creatively and coming up with business names and podcast names and things that really are uniquely yours by the sound of it, not just everyone naming their course, next level, whatever.
Yeah.
Or like, you know, I don't want to go through it because I don't want to throw anyone under the bus, but you all know that there are just common tropes of a lot of business owners kind of leaning into the same terms. And so as much as
Yes.
possible, we want to avoid that.
Yeah, and that brings up a good point because I think you would want to differentiate even without the trademark. You want people to not confuse you with another company. I've come across this where I was trying to find this company that I had interacted with at a networking thing. I was trying to find them on Instagram, and all these other things kept coming up that weren't them. And I was like, dang, why do they have such a generic name? And to this day, I can't remember who that was that I was looking for. And so I don't think we ever ended up connecting. And I was a potential client. They
Mm,
lost out on because
that's a
it was such a
great example.
generic name.
Yeah,
So,
thanks for sharing that. That's a
um,
really good example.
well, I mean, I know that like finally seeing the name of this podcast isn't super unique, but I didn't find another podcast with that name when I looked. So I was
And
like,
that's
huh,
and that's the great kind of Venn diagram overlap to find, right? So when it comes like situations where Kodak is a good example of a business coming up with a completely made up name, um, that's actually the strongest types of trademarks, but it can be really hard for marketing because you now have to try and get your audience to know how to
yeah.
spell this, what it means. And so I think you've done a great job of coming up with something that is a phrase that exists, but it's unique among podcasts, for example.
Well, and I was even able to get finally seen podcast.com. And I
Oh,
was
that's
like,
awesome.
huh, can't believe that was available. And
That's great.
anytime, like domain names are the first thing I buy. I am domain name realtor, like not really realtor,
Awesome.
but I have always looked at domain names kind of like digital real estate. And so the second I come up with something, I'm over on it. I actually have several things that I haven't done anything with yet in the domain names, but eventually when I do, I will need to get trademarks, which now that we're talking, I'm wondering if I need to start using some of those things that I have just so that I can show that first, use case that you were talking about
Yeah.
earlier.
Well, Chrissy, you might know this, but just so that your audience is aware, there is this way to apply for a trademark under what's called intent to use. And what's great about that filing basis is submit the application without having to attach any evidence of actual use. And then later in the process, you show that evidence. And when your trademark gets registered, your date of first use actually gets backdated to when you filed. So we
Oh,
work with a lot of businesses that are more established that are coming up with potential names for things. We're filing that intent to use basis. Now that you know that exists, it's pretty fun to like do a trademark search for like Marvel or Disney and look at all of the different intent to use applications to try and get a sense of, whether it's an entertainment like movie space or Apple, like what could be the next big thing that they're potentially wanting to trademark.
that's an interesting thing that you're bringing up too. Kind of, that's a good way to look and see maybe what topics are going to come into play or what theme could be the next big thing. Like, had somebody known that, I don't know, the next Maleficent, that's just what popped in my head. Like maybe the next Maleficent was coming, something spun off of that, you could use it and go, okay, how can I ride those coattails? So that's just me thinking on I don't know, that was
Yeah, that's a
just,
great example. Another way of just kind of seeing how it plays out is uh, Beyonce I'm assuming it's Beyonce, has filed for several applications under the intent to use basis for Blue Ivy,
Mm,
her daughter, where Blue Ivy is the trademark, and it's in all different types of classes from
yeah,
like apparel or jewelry or whatever it is, so that um, as Blue Ivy gets older, she has the option to choose whether to kind of go into business in this
smart.
space or this space. And no other, no one else can try and claim Blue Ivy. When we hear Blue Ivy, we think of that Blue Ivy.
Yeah.
So,
Well, that's a great point because, you know, you don't want somebody else taking maybe your name even and then everybody confusing it thinking, oh, it's you, you know?
right.
Interesting. Very, very interesting. Yeah, because there are a lot of similar brands out there and somebody could kind of take your notoriety and use it. Interesting. I've not thought about it that way. That's really cool.
Tired of overpriced energy drinks full of junk? Same. That's why I use Babello, a self-carbonating hydration packet that gives you clean energy, electrolytes, and vitamins without the crash. Just add water, shake, and sip. It's way more affordable than typical energy drinks and way better for you. Use code ChrissyBernal15 at checkout to get 15% off at drinkbabello.com. Hydration just got an upgrade.
I know one of the things I mentioned earlier was how you talk about kind of the emotional side of entrepreneurship, and not emotional as in like crying or angry, or I'm just saying like there is an emotional toll that being an entrepreneur takes. Because I can tell you there are days that I'm like 3 o'clock and I'm just done. I'm done.
Yeah.
Like can't make it to 5. I'm out. But I guess that's kind of been a passion. I feel like you got there if I'm remembering because the audience doesn't know, but we've been in the same kind of mentorship circles for, I don't know, 7 years now or so. Um, the H2H community, human to human, shout out Brian Kramer. Um, so where did you, go to that space from going from trademark to now helping businesses with their, burnout issues and whatnot?
Yeah. Well, like I think a lot of entrepreneurs, I have my own horror story of, entrepreneur burnout. And in my case, started having like panic attacks and was in the hospital for a while. And um, long story, very short, realized or discovered that I have this rare allergy to like Xanax and a lot of anti-anxiety medications. And
Interesting.
so for a while, the medication that they gave me was actually making everything worse. And then once they figured out what was happening, they were like, Joey, we're confident of these alternative medicines that we can give you. But if you continue to have panic attacks or high anxiety, we are pretty limited in our ability to treat you. So, like, stress less doctor's orders.
That was
And
literally like the only option for you, really.
yeah. And so, as I was learning about that and kind of shifting my business, the law firm, to, um, make business easier on myself, I realized that I'm not really in the trademark business. I'm in the peace of mind business.
Ah, I love
And,
that.
and as the law firm was growing and I was getting to know like other businesses, also like other law firms that were sending us work and that I was masterminding with, um, it became very clear that like outside of legal stuff, a big stressor is you've got all this work to do and it's all on you and there's no one there to help you. And so we started a second company called Skybreaker that's all about finding vetted, trustworthy overseas VAs that you can affordably hire, start delegating work. And Indie Law had, over the years, we've built our own little army of VAs that do so much for the firm that um, this is just our way of taking everything that we've learned as a company to help other companies with overseas team building.
Well, I know that, like I said, my first hire was from your agency. And Oh my gosh, she is amazing. And she's the one who's going to be editing this. So I'm going to give her, we love you. You are amazing. We couldn't do this without you.
Amazing.
And, y'all sent me 5 amazing people, like every single one of them. I was like, oh my gosh. Like one of them even had a PhD. And I remember asking her, why do you want to do this? You've got a PhD in psychology. And she was like, well, it's less stress and it pays more. And I was like, holy crap.
Isn't that crazy?
Yeah.
Yeah. I
I was
mean,
like,
I was very hesitant when I first heard about VAs so many years ago. Because I was like, wait, are we taking advantage of people? Like, what are the ethics on this? But it was incredibly eye-opening to hear, even at $10 an hour, how much more we are paying them, even versus like doctor salaries in the Philippines. And not only salaries, but a lot of people in the Philippines, if they work in the Philippines, some of them have like 2 to 4 hour commutes.
oof.
And so being able to work virtually is just a huge value add for them.
Right. And well, the way that, because even though I do have team members here in the States, actually here in Texas, we're still remote. And I still say, do your life and do you're adults. I know you'll get your work done. If your
Yes.
kid has a play, go to your kid's play. If you need to work at midnight, work at midnight. It's like whatever. And I feel like working with somebody overseas, we were able to just seamlessly make it happen. I mean, I think I got a unicorn though. I really do. I think she's a unicorn
Good.
because I do hear horror stories from people who've either tried to find them on their own or have gone through maybe different agencies. Because I did interview a couple other agencies before deciding on yours, because that was my first dive into that. I didn't really know what I didn't know.
Sure.
And I'm obviously glad that I went with yours. But what I thought was really cool with yours too is because you wrote up the agreement for us to use with the person. And I was like, well,
Yeah.
that's worth it right there.
So one of the cool things about us being a law firm is we've already done the work in the past of drafting, especially for ourselves, just a great contractor agreement between a U.S. business and an overseas business. And so I want to be clear here. My Skybreaker company, we're not a staffing agency. So it's not a situation where you pay us and we give you teammates, but they're actually our teammates. We found that there's so many more benefits to you paying the VA directly, you having that direct relationship with them. And that does require there to be a contract in place. And so we do have more established business owners where it's like they already have a contract in place, and that's great. But we've done over 100, probably over 200 at this point, VA matches. And so we've gotten a lot of feedback of, at that point, we're almost like consultants. So it's like, hey, what are resources that we can make available? You don't have to take all of them, but whether you have questions about what to ask during interviews, or you want our, short list of tips to onboard and train them quickly, we've got all of that kind of waiting for you during and after the hire.
Yeah, it was such an easy process. And once I brought her on board, business just boomed. And
That's
it was
awesome.
like my mind shifted. I had a lot of the stuff off of my plate so that it allowed me to be more strategic. That creativity was coming back. I could sell, time to sell, that sort of thing. And so, we grew rather quickly. Almost to the where I'm like asking my VA if she needs an assistant herself,
Mhm.
and which I think we're almost there. She might be listening to this going, yes, please. But yeah, I mean, she has just been so amazing to work with. And, it was interesting. Every single one of the people that I talked with who y'all sent me, spoke better English than a lot of people here.
Mm.
I was
Yeah,
like,
it's crazy how much, I mean, it is a second language for all of them, but their written and verbal fluency in the language is incredible. I will say, just as a pro tip to anyone that is hiring overseas VAs, we use Slack, and we have uh, a separate Slack channel that we've created for the VAs to talk with each other. And it's cool whenever I do go in there to see them talking back and forth in a language that I don't understand. But there's once you start having more than one of those, it's really cool to kind of see, okay, how can we build a, Filipino or wherever they are based kind of culture within our business culture.
I like that. That's really cool. That'll be fun. I bet she'll enjoy that when I have somebody else over there that she can bounce ideas off of too. What I've enjoyed too is even though we're remote, we're quite collaborative. All of this are the
Mm.
entire team. And I've pretty much always been remote my entire career, most of the career. So working from home, it hasn't been new to me. And I know for a lot of people it is, but I just found, with the kids and having, special needs kid, I just working outside of the home was just kind of a non-starter. But let's see. What is a moment in your own journey that you thought, okay, I've got clarity, things are rolling, like I can step away? Because I've noticed you've had a few vacations lately. I'm a little jealous.
Yeah, well, I will say, um, I think that one of the most important business metrics, and I call it the Holy Grail metric, and other businesses aren't talking about this, but how long can the business run without you
Mhm.
should be a metric that every business owner is measuring. And
Yes.
so, um, I the vacations that I'm taking, and I try and take at least 1 week-long vacation a quarter, not just because like I love sitting by a beach or whatever, but because that really is forcing the business and the team to flex certain muscles. And
Mhm.
so what and I think about it both ways. Because on the one hand, it's like, yes, like we should be able to enjoy time off without the business crumbling, but also inevitably you or a teammate in the company is going to have something happen to them that's going to force them out of office for a while. And so I think about this not just from the business owner's context, but every teammate, if they were to even like get sick for a few days, who would
Mhm.
be going in and filling the weeds for them and doing the work that they're doing. And so as our business grows, like, yes, we've got financial goals and we've got, revenue forecasts. But a big thing that we're working on is how can we create a coverage plan for everyone on the team so that whether it's
The
going on vacations
redundancy
or
there,
getting
yeah.
sick, yeah, there's that redundancy. Because one of the blessings and curses to hiring in the Philippines is they're very loyal. And this doesn't sound like a problem until it becomes a problem. But a lot of the Filipino teammates that we've had to be very careful with because we'll find out after the fact they were really sick and just plowed through it and kept on working for us. And they were like, I'm so loyal to this business that I can't, like, the business will struggle if I take time off. And so it really is a huge win win, even if you have a $10 an hour VA to be like, hey, we want to figure out a 2 day, 5 day, 7 day, like redundancy plan so that whether you get sick or you get pregnant or you want to go on vacation, you can let us know that you're planning for that without feeling like, oh, the business can't afford me to be out of office.
I love that. Yeah. Well, I definitely am trying to establish that right now with our team. There's 4 of us right now, and I'm that's one of the things we're working on too. And
That's
last
awesome.
year, with me having so many health issues, because last year was when my food allergies and my autoimmune issue just like, hello, we're here.
Mm,
And it was really nice. Like, I remember one particular afternoon, I went into anaphylactic shock. And so I had to epi myself. And then if that happens, you have to go to the ER. Like, you have to. You don't have a choice because they
mm,
have to monitor you and blah, blah, blah. And I remember thinking, things are still happening for our clients right now, even though I am in the ER and I don't have my laptop. I mean, I was shaking so much from the EpiPen, I couldn't have done anything anyway. But
yes.
it was just nice knowing the clients are being taken care of. Even right now, as we're doing this podcast, the clients are being taken care of right now because I outsourced things. And,
Yeah.
it's just, I don't know why I didn't do it sooner.
Well, I mean, we all say that once we get a sense of this, right? And what's crazy about building a business is that what can I delegate question really never ends. And so um, we're seeing a lot of business owners, their first win is they're able to have, some client work getting done without them being present. Then they shift to, okay, who can help me with my consult calls until I'm designed out of that. And then it's, who can finally take the lead on our marketing and Facebook ads or whatever it is. And then it's, okay, I'm now managing a bunch of people who can help me manage these people. And
Hmm.
so one of the things that's with the right mindset, I think is a really exciting part of being a business owner is there's always a next kind of chapter of like, okay, now that I've gotten to this stage in business, where is my time being spent and how can I work on designing myself out of it?
One of the things I did when I first started really figuring out what to delegate, I had a business consultant who walked me through a few things. And one of the things he had me do was a process they called SAD: stop, automate, or delegate. And so
Mm,
I literally wrote down everything I did that week, literally everything. I'm old school, so I had pencil and a piece of paper, my yellow notepad, and if I did a task, I wrote it down. If it was something that I had already done before, I wrote that I did it, twice or three times or four times or whatever.
yeah,
And then I put it on this spreadsheet, which I know some people would just put it on the spreadsheet, but again, I'm old school, so I needed a
sure.
paper pencil. So I put it on the spreadsheet and then calculated how much time I spent on each of those things. And it was mind blowing to see. And then once I started looking at it, he was walking through it with me and saying, is this something you really need to do? Like, just you can do it? Or is it something you can probably teach somebody else how to do? And I was like, yeah, you're right. I could teach somebody else to do it. Or we could
Wow.
automate it or stop doing it altogether if it wasn't really moving the needle. And that was a really awesome exercise that helped me.
Ugh, good on you, Chrissy, for doing that. I know that people um, will often hear that idea of like doing an audit and it like can suck. Even if you don't do it, just thinking about it can feel like such a lift. So good on you for actually doing that. It's a tough thing to do for one day, let alone like you said a full week.
A full yeah, because we do so many things here, but it was it was eye-opening as well because it allowed me to see like what we needed to stop doing. Like, oh, this is
Yeah.
really not something that really is profitable or moves the needle or we really need to do, so we could stop doing them. Um, and honestly, it also helped kind of shape the offers that we offer because it allowed me to see, oh my gosh, it takes us this much time to fulfill this service or this package or offer or whatever.
Mm,
Oh my gosh, we are severely undercharging, or, you know, okay, we're right on where we should be charging, that sort of thing. So,
yeah.
costing those offers was possible after we did that. And yeah, it was very tedious, and even having the team do it when they were doing stuff. Now we don't keep track of time, but we did very meticulously in the beginning for quite a while so that we could see how long it was taking to do things. And
That's awesome.
So yeah, now I think it's getting to where I'm going to have our VA do the sad thing for herself to see what could
Yeah.
either automate, delegate, or stop doing.
I love that. That's awesome.
So when you were talking about how long a business can go without you, it made me think of something this other person said. And I'm forgetting her name off the top of my head. I just met her. I just bought her book too. And I'm going to have her on as a podcast guest. So I'll tag her in this eventually. But she was saying that wholeness and your mental health and healing is a business strategy. And I was like, holy cow, yes, that is a business strategy. Because if we're not doing well, the business can't do well. And I think
Yes.
that's insane. That's so crazy that you have that rare allergy to, the things that you would think would calm you down. Instead, your system is going,
Yeah.
that's crazy.
It's crazy.
Um,
Yeah. I
and
love that quote. I
well,
think
and I'll have to
the way
find
that
it exactly.
um, my team talks a lot about sustainability
Mm,
being a crucial component as we're building the businesses. And yes, like we are like planting trees and stuff with like certain initiatives. But when we say sustainability, we mean like what's the long term
yeah,
sustainability of the business? And like that certainly includes profit, but it's not just profitability.
yeah.
It's also, my health and wellness and the health and wellness of the team.
Yeah. And I think thankfully, because you and I have been in the kind of CTA sphere, the coactive training sphere, and we've been around several of those coaches, we understand the importance of that and the
Yeah.
effects it has on the bottom line. So your book, Legally Legit, how did you come up with that name?
Oh man. If you want to get real what's interesting is I've used that phrase before in branding, and people tend to really like it. Um, I'll be playing kind of inside baseball here. I chose not to file a trademark for it because several other like business attorneys use the phrase. And so I intentionally was like, look, I'm not trying to exclusively own this phrase. But I do think that there's so much of the legal side that's like avoiding the pain, right? And I really
Hmm.
wanted the title of the book to be something that had more of a positive, like aspirational tone to it. And so what we've seen in our own marketing and also observed in our audience talking to us is that phrasing of becoming legally legit is something that a lot of business owners want. And uh, what's great about whether it's the LLC that you're forming or having a contract that you finally, are really confident about using with your clients, um, or the trademark registration and being able to use that Circle R, those legal achievements are really similar to like back in the day when people would get their first dollar bill and like tape it to the cash register.
Yeah.
And so I think a lot of, especially new businesses, are getting just really thrilled and psyched by this idea of like, what do I need to do legally to feel legit as a company?
I love that approach to it because, my shift whenever I really started growing the company was when I shifted from a solopreneur mindset to a CEO mindset. And
Mm,
I think if somebody had introduced the Legally Legit to me years ago, I might have gone, oh, yeah, you know what? If I don't have all these things in place, I'm not a legit business. I guess I need to do these. So, and I meet a lot of entrepreneurs they would like to be legit. They don't know what they don't know, or it seems scary and insurmountable. And so I love that you compiled it into a book. So it's an easy resource, digestible. Um, and you've got your trademark course. And you mentioned the Circle R. That's something that I feel like a lot of people don't understand the difference between that TM and the Circle R. And I'd like you to
yes.
simplify that for them.
Yeah. And this is the way that I try to explain it to my like 5-year-old nephew is there's 2 layers to trademark rights in the United States. Just by being in business, we talked about that first use kind of situation. Just by being in business and having a website with your business name or your podcast or whatever, just by having that in front of consumers means that you have trademark rights. And
I love how
that's
you
what we
said
mean.
trademark rights, not trademark, but rights.
Yeah. So just by being in business, you technically can claim trademarks, trademark rights. That's what we call common law trademarks. That allows you to use that TM symbol. Whenever I give presentations or webinars, usually the biggest aha moment where people start writing things down like crazy is you can slap that TM symbol for free today on whatever you want. Most business owners don't understand the difference. It looks very legally legit, but you can't use that circle R until it's been registered. And the benefit of that is only with the trademark registration do you have evidence of the fact that you own the trademark, and it beefs up your trademark rights from being regional, so bigger than a city, smaller than a state, to nationwide rights. And these days, most business owners are wanting to claim exclusive ownership of their podcast or their business nationally, not just, back in the day when it was like, I want my current corner store not to be named as the same as someone else in the same city.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that. And so now we're going to start seeing a whole bunch of TMs everywhere.
I'd love to see it.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yes, lean into using those TM symbols, but also understand the limitation until you get the circle R.
Okay. So this is I've got to finally seen framework TM.
There you go.
Oh gosh. Well, Joey, this has been awesome. I feel like lots of people are going to stop, rewind, write down what you just said so that they can become legally legit and get some help in their business and outsource some things. Is there one last thing that you would like to leave the audience with that maybe we haven't covered?
I'll end with this. One of my coaches, and I think our shared coach, Chrissy, James Wedmore, one thing that he loves to say is that your success is inevitable.
Yes, I
And
have that on my desk.
I love that like mantra as a business owner, and just thinking that optimistically about if I can dream it, I can achieve it kind of a thing. But if that's true, then the flip side is also true. If your success is inevitable, then problems are also inevitable. And so when we think about your business having inevitable success, the real question is, what are those inevitable problems that are going to happen when I reach this level of success? And what we've seen time and time again is trademarks are the number one legal issue that pop up and hit, a small business owner with a cease and desist or whatever it is. So, as you're thinking very optimistically and abundance mindset-y about your business growth, it is worth prioritizing trademarks specifically to make sure that you're doing what you should be doing on the legal side.
I love that. Yes, you're right. I forget about that too. And that as soon as you said that, I was like, oh yeah, that's the universal law of polarity. Duh. So it's like you don't want to focus on that and that be your focus, problems, 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 but mitigate it. Okay. I see the problem. Here's what I can do to reduce it and go.
Exactly.
So that was an awesome nugget to end with. I love that. And where can people reach out to you if they're ready for their trademark or want to buy your book or hire a VA or something like that?
Absolutely. Anything that's trademark related, you can always go to indielaw.com. There's a link to book a free call with us there. And then you can find me anywhere on social at the Joey Vitale.
Oh, Vitale. Okay. Sorry. I said your name Vitale. Sorry. But yeah, I guess I
It's
should
okay.
have
I
thought
butcher
Vitale.
it too. I think all of my relatives in Sicily say Vitale. So we're saying it wrong together.
Well, people butcher my last name all the time too. They'll say Bernal. I'm like, no, not even close, but it's
All good.
Bernal actually. But anyway, so I love it. Well, thank you again for being a guest. I have been looking forward to this because it's such a wealth of knowledge that you've just shared with us. So I really, really appreciate it. So
Thank you
thank you
so
very
much,
much, Joey.
Chrissy. Bye.
And we'll see y'all next week on Finally Seen.